This is actually the best time of day for light, too, because I have my natural light window over here, you know?
Right after golden hour?
Yep. What is golden hour? Is that 10 a.m.?
No, it's like 7 a.m. and like 7. It's when the sun rises and the sun sets, like within that hour.
Is that supposed to be better for... Or that has nothing to do with lighting?
It's like magical.
It is. If you ever go on a hike and are able to like get to the end point of the hike within either golden hour in the morning or at night, it is like it's hard to comprehend that like that is possible to produce. It is incredible.
So the terrifying thing.
Yep.
What's it? Yeah, I'd love to do a nature version of the Ricky. Right. Well, the scariest thing about doing it for a hike around sundown is having to hike in the dark. You know.
Yeah, and conversely, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but I'm going to use it. When you're on the way to the hike in the morning, it is dark.
Right.
So if you have to, like the picture over my left shoulder, that was like a 5 a.m. hike on Isle Royale, which is an island between Michigan and Canada. And we got up like 4 a.m. to do it. And it was like 2 miles away from our campsite, but it was pitch black on the way there. So like you're on an island, there's wild moose and like fox running around and stuff. So naturally you just want to look down and make sure you're not like tripping over yourself like while you're walking up a mountain, and it's dark. So.
We hiked to Red Rocks, my brother and I, and there weren't any shows there or whatever, but we hiked there, and he wanted to go a different way back than we went there, and we get on this hike, which we later found out was a trail, by the way, not a walking trail, which was part of the problem. We get on there, there's nobody on it, and we're on a very thin like ridge where it is straight down on both sides of us. And every place that he said there was supposed to be an exit from this trail, there was no exit, and it was the end of the day. And I was freaking out, and it's where I discovered I was scared of heights. And he later told me that 30% of him was pretty sure that we were going to have to sleep there that night. So
that really nails in like the fear of the unknown, like how strong that is.
Yeah, for
when
sure.
You're like, oh yes, it's right around this bend. Like,
and then it's not.
Yeah, and then it's not. You just keep going.
Yep. All right, let me find where's my stuff? Hold on. Oh, holy cow. There we go. All right. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. Is brought to you by Kornblau Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding, free tunes for the life of your board with the purchase of any new snowboard at Kinetic. On the show today, Sixers keep winning. Now sit a game and a half out of first place in the East. Joel Embiid is the favorite now to win MVP. The Kings have reportedly disengaged from trade talks with the Sixers, and our very favorite, our very own number 25 bought an NFT and now has some weird NFT endorsement. Oh, by the way, it seems like Tobias Harris might be good again. 2 notes before we go. If you're listening to this podcast, we've been available on video on YouTube for a while, but now we are also available on video on Spotify as well. Now you can just listen as normal on Spotify, but you can also watch the video. So there you go. And the second thing is we would like to send our love and prayers to one Zach Lowe, who, if you'd notice, had been disappeared off the internet for a little while. No podcast, no writing, as his mom suffered, apparently is, as he said, a very serious stroke. So we love Zach, and we wish him the best and send lots of love to his family as they get through this. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who Adam Schefter reports is retiring after this season. That is one Mike Levin.
Every year. I like to tease it. I like to keep people on their toes. And I like to think about never being heard from again. But not yet.
Not yet.
The Sixers keep winning.
Mike, four
There we
straight.
go.
4 straight, 7 of 10. Game and a half out of first. Coincidentally, 2 games out of the play-in, but also game and a half out of first.
Mm-hmm.
Our own Joel Embiid, who was plus 4,000 to win the MVP a month ago, plus 1,000 about a week ago, is now the plus 220 favorite at DraftKings to win MVP ahead of Giannis, Curry, and Jokic. The Sixers' odds for the championship have not changed. And my question to you is, Tobias Harris is good again, apparently. My question to you is, Mike, are you all the way back in?
I'm no.
No? Oh, you're
No,
a
I
tough
think
customer this time.
No, it's just like we know we are too experienced now. We know this. We know this happens. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Joel is a different story. He is the best version of himself right now, even though he's had, I don't want to say rocky games, but like strung together some rocky play compared to his, casual 40 plus. He's been missing free throws. He looks a little tired. It would have been nice if they could have gotten him a rest day in there against the Kings, but I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to just keep playing and be a regular player. And in his mind, I think him being there is like indicative of his level of commitment to the team, to his teammates, and to like his conditioning, which is obviously still very high and the highest we've seen it. So, but he's, he was 8 for 13 from the line against the Lakers, and it looked like he was just short on everything. He was 0 for 5 from 3. It just seems like he's a little tired. But then at the second half of the Kings game, he just absolutely took over.
He had one field goal in the first half. He had one.
Yeah. So, it's,
yeah.
Yeah.
He had one
Just a
field goal in the
weird
first half and
vibe.
ended up with 36 points and fucking 15
yeah, 36.
rebounds and 6. It's like, come
He's
on,
very good.
man.
I mean, he's very good. We do this. We watch him. We enjoy it. He's incredible. It's nice. The team looks better. It's good to see. I'm not out. I'm not like incredibly negative on the team. I've been relatively high on giving them a chance to make a run with making the best possible version of a trade at the deadline that you can make that also leaves you flexible in the offseason. So I'm there. Like, if that's optimistic, if that's like, I think that with even not an A+ trade, with like a A- B+ trade, then they could make a run this season in the playoffs because of how good Joel is, because of how much of a leap Maxi's taken. If you could just get a couple more, 1 or 2 more two-way players out there, some passing, some rebounding here and there, I do think it's possible. The East is open. There's a lot of good teams in the East, but there's no elite team right now, I don't think. So if that's optimistic, and I think it might be, then I think like Daryl should capitalize on those 5% as the trade deadline gets closer and closer. But the idea that this team, if they don't make the trade until this offseason, which is, well within their rights to do, and, certainly a possibility as the rumor mill churns on,
which we will
I
get
don't
to.
think that this team as constructed is going to, win more than a round.
Yeah, and even
if that.
that even a round could be difficult given where everyone sort of
Matchup.
sits,
Sure.
this year. There's the difference between the 1 seed and the even the 6 or 7 seed isn't very much. I would rather, if I could only have one, I would rather Embiid win the MVP than the Sixers win the title. I
I think
like
that's ridiculous. A ridiculous proposition.
no, I
Embiid winning the title would be better than Embiid winning the MVP.
I don't think so.
Imagine
I don't
him getting
think
the MVP when like the Bucks are winning again and he's at home and we're having to watch another team like hoist the title. Like, he
there's
would much
just-
rather win the championship, of course.
Well, I
Come
mean,
on, you know
this team's not winning the championship. So in the case of this particular team, it would almost be impossible for one to happen without the other to happen. But like, I don't know. if they get James Harden and he averages 36 through the playoffs and Embiid's just like his fucking running mate, which would be great. It'd be great to win a title. I do think from an emotional perspective, watching Joel Embiid hoist the MVP trophy would have more of an effect on me than them winning a title with some star they traded for. It'd be great. It'd be great to have those, but I think there's more of a chance that it would affect me personally if Embiid won the MVP.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think that Embiid, even if they get Harden, is going to turn into like Dan Gafford and just become a role man.
That's not what I'm saying.
Be like tangentially related to the championship. I think if Embiid wins the championship, if they win a championship, it would be largely because of Embiid, especially on defense. But even if they get Harden at some point or whoever, I think it'll still be Embiid's their best player, especially as whoever they get ages and figures out what they are. Even when they got Jimmy a couple years ago, it was like there were games when he just wasn't the focal point because he hadn't like figured out the offense yet, and like they're placing him. A mid-season trade is always a little bit awkward. So I think no matter who they get, it's going to be Embiid's team. Maybe he shares the load with a guy more than depending on who they get. If it's Haliburton, it's obviously still Embiid's team or whatever. But if it's Harden or Brad Beal or something, I still think it'll be Joel's team. I think that the championship is the ultimate thing. Like the MVP doesn't. It'd be nice, but he's been in conversation for MVP for now 2 years, and that's like enough for me. That doesn't do it for me on a level of like I'd be willing to even consider that as a bigger win for the process or us personally or the time we put in this organization than like
I just think for
Embiid
him to
finally got the team over the hump.
I think for everything that he's been through, for him to be individually considered that, because it's not just the two. I have no problem with feeling the opposite way of this. Just for me personally, but I think for everything that he's overcome, not just the two broken feet and the broken back and the injuries and yada yada yada, not all of those things, but to then also have somehow gotten over the hurdle of being considered that guy, which has been a hurdle for him previously, right? Not just with other players who have said things about him not playing, or the media who have said things about him not playing, or the fans who have said things about him not playing. For him to go and win the MVP over somebody like Jokic, who plays every game, is considered something of an Iron Man, a flabby Iron Man, but an Iron Man nonetheless, or Giannis or Curry. I just think the perception of him to getting to that point is such a massive victory that I would have never expected, especially even this season. I didn't think it was coming this season. I just think has been such a change that it represents more of an individual overcome than the team one, which will most likely involve somebody else. So that's it. I don't disagree with how you feel. I can understand how you feel differently on that, but I think him winning the MVP would be pretty wild. Harris has played better. It seems like maybe it seems like when he shoots better, he's just better, I guess. Not that it makes him seem better, but it sort of gives him a little bit of confidence, and he plays a little. We get a little less bad Tobias and a little more good Tobias when the shots seem to fall. I don't know if it's chicken and egg thing, but he does seem a little less slow recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously when the shots go in, it's way easier to put up with some of the other stuff. I think over the last couple games, couple weeks, maybe even, it seems like he has, I don't want to say changed who he is, but at least tweaked a little bit. Like we have seen him make quicker decisions. We've seen him still not shooting threes. He's friggin' 1 of 2 last night. What a different kind of joke. 3 for 3 is the worst possible thing I could see, but 1 of 2 is also a real shot to my face. But
I think at it this morning after watching it, I looked at it. I was like, how many did he shoot? Oh, that's perfect.
2, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think he's making quicker decisions. I think he's cutting a little bit more. I feel like, they tried to use Maxey in the dunker spot occasionally, which is insane because he's not really a threat there earlier in the season. And they put Matisse in there sometimes, which I think is right. And he's had some success there and a lot, obviously, the last month or so a ton of success as a cutter, and Embiid's been finding him. But I think they've been using Tobias a little bit in the dunker spot occasionally, cutting there, being open, and he's got the ability to, make some difficult shots in there and is big enough to get his ass into somebody and get a decent look out of it. So I think there's been a couple. He just seems like he's more decisive. I think that's everybody talks about it. When Tobias plays well, it looks like he's his brain is working quicker. He's not thinking as much. He's just playing. And Doc had a good quote a couple games ago where he's saying there can be one ball stopper on the team, and ours is going to be Joel. So it can be Tobias also. You just can't have two of them. And I think that's a good and correct quote. And it seems like it's gotten through to Tobias that if I'm going to impact this team, it's not going to be as holding the ball, 2009 Carmelo Anthony. It's just, you got to make quick decisions. You got to move the ball and get it out of there. And it seems like he's doing that. Obviously, we would like more threes. It seems like he's a little bit more engaged on the defensive end now that he's hitting some shots again. It just seems he looks better. Is Tobias? Or are we gonna any mea culpas about Tobias? No, of course not. No, he was playing like shit.
Yeah,
he played awful.
Still
for a long
overpaid.
time.
You always compare him.
Now
By
it's
the way,
just there we go.
You always compare him to Carmelo, which I understand.
I don't think he's Carmelo. I think he thinks he's Carmelo in 2009. His game is modeled after that.
Right. Carmelo's so much better. And the difference is just in confidence. Carmelo was sure as shit even when he shouldn't have been. But Toby doesn't seem that. So the only other thing I had from the game, well, first of all, it is amazing what a difference having Danny Green just available makes and willing to shoot. I think you could put a bunch of players into that position and say the same thing, but somebody who can play defense and is willing to shoot as soon as he gets the ball. I do think that his pick and roll, his three off the pick and roll with Joel was the one dribble pick and roll was amazing, but having him available is a big thing. And the other thing is that I really miss whatever the fuck happened to Korkmaz, who is just on the verge of a lost season, is what he's shooting 25% from three. It's just nothing goes down. I still believe he's an effective player, and I think if the team was better, it would make him better, but it's sort of a bummer watching him struggle like this for this extended period of time.
Yeah, I mean, Korkmaz had a stretch there where he started hitting again. He'll have his weird 7 of 9 from 3 type game. But I think, honestly, the lack of guards on this team that can beat their men off the dribble, that can penetrate and also pass, is really harmful for his outside shooting. They've depended on him, Doc especially has depended on him to run the second unit. And that's not his strength. He can do it a little bit, but to have him out there without a real initiator who is quick and decisive and can can manipulate the defense and make those passes, it's just, it puts him in a position where he has more responsibility. And I'm sure he likes it. I'm sure he likes running point like he does overseas, but he's just not good enough at it. He's not quick enough, and you just need him to be a guy that can hit shots, and he hasn't been. And hopefully, if they make a move at the deadline to get a more perimeter initiator who can do some stuff, it'd be helpful to him. I still believe in him as a shooter. I still believe in him as a helpful player. But as we talked about, team has too many of derivative pieces that all have the same weaknesses. But I think it was nice to see they gave up a bunch of points to the Kings in the first half without De'Aaron Fox. Tyrese Haliburton went off. Seth Curry's back, but he did he's not a good defender. He just is slow and dies on screens and falls asleep.
He did take 7 threes. 7.
Sure. Took 7 threes. There was a good article about Seth that Rob Mahoney wrote for The Ringer. That didn't really I thought it was a good article, a very glowing article about him. Didn't really get into his weaknesses and what a team that has him as playing as many minutes as they do struggles with. And you saw last night,
Tyrese
Haliburton.
Answer article. You should write a response article about everything that is bad about him.
The response is just
not
kinda. There's a good article a good moment in the article where his G League coach told him to do push-ups on the court so people would perceive him as stronger in warm-ups, which I thought was pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, he's just like, he's a very good player. Obviously, he's helpful out there. Embiid loves playing with him. They have some magical two-man game. He had a couple nice defensive moments off ball last night, but he's just too slow and small. And Haliburton just like absolutely roast him repeatedly. And I worry. I think Maxey is a long-term piece of this team. I really don't want to trade him. I would try to avoid trading him at all possible costs, because I think he's going to keep growing and getting better and being like a cost-controlled, homegrown star on this team for at least a couple years until they have to pay him more. So I wonder how long can you survive with a Maxey Curry backcourt in the playoffs? I don't really know. I think
you can't. It'd be
limited.
The worst. It'd be like the worst backcourt in the playoffs. I haven't looked at the rest of the team.
Defensively.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that counts. That's part of it. So, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Pavorsky Jewelers, who have had a huge week, just an enormous week. So, congratulations to our own. Could we say our own Seamus Clancy? Is he our own? I guess
he's at least my own.
Liberty
I claim
Ballers,
him.
Right?
Sure.
So Seamus got engaged, used LL. I think we hit 256 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL Pavorsky. We got this nice note from Tommy. Hey, Spike and Mike, wanted to plug LL again and say that number 254 me got engaged this weekend to his fiancee Megan. LL couldn't have been more gracious, low-key, and made the whole experience awesome. Just wanted to say, I don't know if all 254 people are real, but at least I'd recommend him, and I am real. So, and also I saw he closed the deal yesterday in the snowstorm. They needed the ring in the snowstorm, so he went into LL Pavorsky Jewelers from South Jersey. What a man. What a guy LL Pavorsky is. And he was even dressed down. If you look at his Twitter, he was dressed down when he was in the shop yesterday. I guess snow forces him to dress down. LL was the first sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez. And as I mentioned, he has sold 256 rings to Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners. We're 2 weeks away from Valentine's Day. You need something? LL's your guy. You want to get engaged? LL's your guy. If you just want to talk, want to chat, want a friend, LL's your guy. Been there for over 30 years, and everybody who we send to LL gives us a glowing review. 707 Walnut is the store. If you're going to buy an engagement ring, appointments are necessary. 215-627-2252. Email him, lee@llpavorsky.com, or just tweet at him @LLPavorsky. Always a generous contributor to our charities, Providence Animal Center, coded by kids. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Killer cow voice, but people told me LL Pavorsky couldn't sell rings.
Do you want to move on to it feels like a natural move to the trade update stuff from Sacramento?
I want a couple more things about the game.
Okay, all right.
Shake is still out, and they're still like kind of searching for that 10th guy in the rotation. Doc Love's going to an all defense or all bench lineup, and sometimes to his detriment. But they played with Charlie Brown a little bit. They play with Isaiah Joe. Interesting that Isaiah Joe was on the court for a big defensive possession at the end of the game. I like at least instilling that in him of like, hey, we need you to commit on defense, and I think he does sometimes. I think he gets like, a little foulsy sometimes, where he'll try to contest shots so hard that he'll get baited into some fouls. And I think I need him. Obviously, he needs to get stronger, 100%. But he works. He tries hard. He'll step in for a charge. So I think that was kind of just nice to see. And the defensive effort in the second half generally was really good. They gave up 40 points in the second half after a tough offensive first half. And they had just, mostly they lost this game. They were going to lose this game in the first half because of like they were so not invested. Like the turnovers were like, oh fuck, whatever. It just every time they turned the ball over, they were like, oh, not again. It seemed like they had like 14 turnovers in the first half, something like that. And they tightened it up in the second half, and they just beat a worse team. And that's, it'd be nice if they could put a team away earlier, so you don't have to play Maxey 42 minutes against the Kings or Embiid 35. But they got to just keep piling wins so that they can give themselves a chance. Here's the segue. Once the trade happens, to roll a little bit and maybe host a first round series.
And they're a team. They could use I bet any team in the NBA, they could use the All-Star break right now. The Sixers. I think been through a lot between the COVID things, between the trade thing hanging over their head the whole time. I think just getting to the All-Star break would be good for them as well. I know we would rather they put them away, but I don't know. There is something about these games being ones that in the first half they look like this is one that they're just not going to have it and they're not going to get it, and they just sort of reach down and win it. Mostly behind Embiid, but them locking down in the second half, I think, is it's a good thing that they did that, like that
For
they
sure.
can come out and look like shit and actually win it. I think means something.
Nice mix. You need a nice mix. You need to win tough games. I'd rather the tough wins come against better opponents than a De'Aaron Fox-less Sacramento team that is just basically auditioning for the Sixers. Harrison Barnes and Tyrese Haliburton just being like, get me out of here, please. Look how good I am. Look how nice I look. Just like showing some leg. Look how good that you want some of this. I think it really felt like that to me, and they would be for sure helpful. I don't know how big of a difference Barnes especially would make. Haliburton I love and think he's a special player and would just like infuse a lot to this team that already is there and connect a lot of things together. But we'll see. We will see.
In a second, we will get to that, all of those updates. Before that are a very special Apple Podcast 5-star review for you, actually, this week, Mike. We're at 3,045. When we get to 4,000, of course, I have to read all the reviews again. And our Spotify ratings, we are at 346 with a 4.9 average. Would love to get that up to 5. Anyway, so here is the review. This comes from Escobar the Man. The subject line is trial and error. Illegally streaming Trial and Error at the moment because it's unavailable on all the streaming services. Still holding out hope for season 3. Mike, any comment there?
I mean, it's been dead a long time. It sucks. It was caught in that kind of weird middle ground a few years ago where it's not just available on any site. Like it wasn't like it was co-owned by different companies. One NBC, part Universal, part Warner Brothers, and so I think that they just like never agreed on it, and that's I think why it never really got a chance. Even though it was a good show and funny show, and got a second season, people just didn't like have time to catch up or see it because it was not all fully available. It was only the last 5 episodes were available at a time, and it's just like that. You just can't have a show that is successful like that these days. It has to all just be around.
The Apple Podcast 5-star review brought to us by Kinetic Skateboarding. There's a Kinetic Kid Sweats out right now on kineticskateboarding.com. And with all that snow out there, you should be snowboarding unless you're old and frail like me. If you buy a brand new snowboard from Kinetic right now, you get free tunes for life also. I don't go to Kinetic for the skateboards or the snowboards. I go for the apparel. But 9.1% off your first order with promo code DaveSilver at kineticskateboarding.com. Okay. Here we go with the updates from the trade. Actually, not just trade, but the all these different number 25 updates for the Sixers. So this comes from Adrian Wojnarowski. The Sacramento Kings, one of the most aggressive teams in the trade market and one eager suitor, have ended their pursuit of a deal with the 76ers and turned elsewhere in trade talks, sources told ESPN on Friday. Inside of 2 weeks until the February 10th trade deadline, the Kings believe the asking price is too steep and that the pathway to a trade agreement with the Sixers doesn't exist. With the Kings exiting trade talks and the sources saying the Brooklyn Nets will not engage in a James Harden trade prior to the deadline, it becomes increasingly possible that 76ers president Daryl Morey will be more than willing to advance the Simmons discussions into the offseason. Morey and the Sixers have long believed the offseason could bring a higher profile players into the trade market, along with free agency. Playoff disappointments also often give teams and star players reason to pursue change, which could offer the Sixers a wider spectrum of offers. Well, first of all, the Kings have not, like, this is obviously more of the public negotiating that's happening. So they're just going to take their ball and go elsewhere. Obviously,
yeah, you don't believe that they've left the blackjack table and are holding their chips together, being like, we're not coming back, we're done, it's over. Just watching lustily. It's ridiculous.
Watching last night does make you, it is just one game. And I was thoroughly unimpressed by a lot of Haliburton's threes last night were wide the fuck open. I can't tell, just looking at him, I can't buy him as a 3-point shooter. Like just watching him shoot, it's just so fucking strange.
No, for sure. I mean, he's got a unconventional release for sure. I don't buy, because it has to like lock into place. Like he has to like put the ball in the place where it goes and then shoot it. I struggle to see, even though I definitely believe in him and I believe in him figuring it out. At this point, I struggle to see consistency as a 3-point shooter off the dribble, but off the catch, he shoots from distance. It goes in. His numbers are good. I don't think of him as like he's the perfect primary initiator, just give him the ball and get away. But like he can do that. I think I think he'd be really nice with Maxey as a secondary initiator. Can shoot, can connect, can run pick and roll with the second unit. Him and Rashawn are a great lob threat. I would love to have him as a good pick and roll partner with when Maxey's on the bench with whoever Joel's backup will be forever. Thinking about like obviously Drummond, but even like a Charles Bassey situation seems like that'd be good for a long time, making him into just a regular pick and roll player. You see how Chris Paul in Phoenix just makes whatever big man walks in, Bismack Biyombo, out of the crypt to like get a just good pick and roll game out of him. So yeah, I just love Haliburton. I think he's a really helpful player, and I think like you wish that he had made the Kings better. You wish that how much I believe in him just like made it like. He could just have lifted them out of it, but they're just too Sacramento Kingsy for him to do it. The power was too strong, so it's just been still ugly. But I do believe in him as a helpful player. I don't know if he's the helpful player, obviously, but he's very good, and he showed how good he was last night.
I do believe he is incredibly tradable in that between his salary and his game, you could put him on any team and be helpful. Almost any NBA team could add Tyrese Haliburton and find a role for him. So totally. If that becomes, we don't know what the trade offer is or was, but if he is involved, it seems like I get the sense that he would be more useful in a trade than Simmons would be. Like overall value in the entire NBA.
I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for. Just I think, as we said, like it's going to depend from
somebody
team to
who
team.
Plays.
I think it's just going to depend team to team. Like he's, we know Simmons' strengths and weaknesses, and I mean the Kings stuff is like every rumor that comes out now is coming out for a reason. It's not like Woj is an archaeologist and he's like sifting through, making discoveries. Like someone's telling him something, right? And then he checks it with somebody else probably, and then somebody else tells him the same thing, and he's like, "All right, I'll tell some people about it." It's not. It's out because someone wants them to know, whether it's an agent or a team or like someone involved with the player or the owners. I feel like this is just like Vivek, just like texting at Woj and be like, "Do it, say we're done." But I don't know. I mean, my concern is that like unless Daryl's just like unless we get blown away, we're happy to wait until the offseason. I think that concerns me because I want Embiid to have a better chance to win a championship this year. He's playing so good. Like I just want it. I think he deserves it, and I think if he's as creative as we know he is, like you can find a way to get the guy in the offseason without it having to be a straight up Ben for that guy type of pick.
Absolutely.
But also like I think people in the same way that it's different because Daryl's been there a lot longer, but like you could tell the GM didn't want to negotiate with Hinkie. Like they didn't want to do it. They found it annoying. They found it like they probably found us annoying and feeling like, I'm gonna get pantsed by this guy, and this like legion of nerds on Twitter is gonna like talk about it. 2028 second round pick like it's the best thing in the world, which it is. But I think Daryl's in the risk of doing that because he's just like his asking price has been so high for such a long time. He hasn't been able to move, and it seems, and with the Harden rumors that seem like tampered adjacent, I think people don't want to just get like played at this time of year. If he's just wasting their time with 10 days before the deadline, basically, I could see people just being like, fuck you, man, I'm not doing it.
Poor fucking Nets.
I'm a little concerned about that.
The poor Nets just wake up and they're like, wait a minute, what he's gonna leave? Like what? I would be so annoyed if I was the Nets with all that shit bouncing around. The other thing, and I've said this and I believe this, but truly, I would, if the Sixers got Harrison Barnes, I would put fucking Harris on the bench and start Harrison Barnes. Like Harrison Barnes is better than Tobias Harris. He just is. On a team that wants to win, Harrison Barnes is more useful than Tobias Harris is. And if somehow they wind up with Barnes should start and Harris should come off the bench. And that is my other take on that. I don't think it would put them in the championship realm, but the Sixers would certainly have a better chance of competing in the playoffs if they had Tyrese Haliburton and Harrison Barnes for the second half of the season rather than like nothing, you know. I think they would both be helpful. I don't think it puts them in, you know, elite class, but they're both players that would be helpful on this team.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think they'd certainly be helpful and give themselves a chance. The Sixers have a ton of depth, but is it like helpful depth? It's just sort of players that should be in a rotation. I would hope that they would package some of those guys together to get something else and get like, you know, a pick or something that a couple picks that they can then move in the summer. Like that's going to be part of any deal. If you're not getting a top flight guy, whether it's like Beal or Dame who hasn't played in a long time or one of those types of guys, it's going to have to come with picks so that then you can flip those with, you know, maybe Tobias to get off of Tobias or in a big package to get probably Harden this summer.
Okay, some other updates that have happened with our sitting out point guard right now. One, you'd be happy to know he bought Boring Ape 5164 for 100 Ethereum, which is $253,000. And also, according to Jonah Bolden, he has joined the Gutter Cat Gang. Jonah Bolden tweets, it's about that time, googly eyes. Super excited to reveal that Ben Simmons, 25, has joined us in the Gutter Cat Gang. Culture has finally arrived, and we're just getting started.
Has finally arrived. We've been waiting on Culture for years, and Jonah Bolden announces that it's here. And it's here because Ben Simmons made an investment.
Yes, in a
why do they every time it's look
cartoon?
You know this is a fucking bullshit, like stupid ass scam across the board that like dumb fuck celebrities are just involved in all the time. But like Gwyneth Paltrow is fucking, everyone's doing a fucking NFT. It's so boring. Everyone's so posting like mediocre art. Like it's like the coolest thing in the world. It's the same picture with like different colors. What are we doing? What's everyone doing? But it's like, why do they have to announce it? That's why, you know, everything. Every time anyone does anything, it's like announcing. Are they announcing all of their investments? Like, is that just something we do now? Like every person has to announce what they're investing in?
Were you in the Gutter Cat Gang or Bored Ape Gang?
No. They have to tell everything. Like, hey, I actually bought a couple penny stocks, and here you go. The culture's here because I did. Like, what are we doing? Just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What are we doing? This is bad. Look at cool stuff. One picture of the same like gorillas friggin' art is not changing anything. What are we talking about? Losers.
Culture has finally arrived. Can only imagine where we'll be in 6 months. For now, though, it's gang cat emoji.
Great. It's gang. Okay.
I can appreciate what this technology could do for actual art. Like the idea of giving some sort of ownership proof for digital art. But that should be for real art. You shouldn't just buy the ownership proof. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, if you bought a poster that came with or bought an autograph that came with a certificate of authenticity with it, this is just like buying the certificate of authenticity without the autograph. Like that's what they're doing. It sounds so fucking dumb. So here's the other one though, but this is maybe more important. NBA all-star Ben Simmons joins crypto NFT esports organization Pyrion DAO as exclusive partner and ambassador. Thank goodness he has the time for that. On the heels of a successful private funding round, Pyrion, a decentralized autonomous organization, founded to leverage the play to earn capabilities of NFT gaming, is thrilled to announce that NBA player and avid gamer Ben Simmons has joined as a strategic advisor and ambassador. Simmons will partner with Pyrion to bring a new element to engaging gamers and continue to elevate cultural impact in the play-to-earn space.
Play-to-earn.
I've always been
is not what Ben Simmons is doing right now.
It's so funny. I've always been a gamer and part of the gaming community for years, said Simmons. What Perion is doing is so important when it comes to getting more people involved and unleashing the competitive spirit of gamers all over the world.
Great. I'm sure he wrote that. I'm sure he wrote it. I'm sure he sat down, had a pencil, an eraser in his mouth as he thought of the perfect words to use. This is nothing.
Having been on the Perion team means a lot to us, says Amos Whitewolf, co-founder of Perion. Ben's story resonates with a large segment of our community, people from humble backgrounds dedicated to mastering their craft and changing their fortunes.
Everything, I think everything's always been full of shit, but people, now they're using just terms that they don't even understand. Like maybe, I'm sure that guy understands fucking whatever game he plays, but like everyone's just like, and it's about bringing eyes to the space, and we're all collectively learning and culturing together as we take advantage of this fresh new technology in the metaverse. Like it's just nothing. Well, who's he an ambassador to? Who is he ambassadoring? Explain the role? Is that not just Shaq with Color Star? What are we doing?
Play to earn, or whatever the fuck that is.
Just like, look, invest, grow your wealth, whatever you want to do. Listen to fucking financial podcasts. I don't give a fuck. But just like everyone being so like publicly like smug about it. Is like, I'm doing this and I'm making even more money than I was making. And it's because of these words that like nobody really understands. It's all very vague. And it's just like, I may as well have a partnership with Burger King. Like someone just like pair with Burger King and be like a Burger King spokesman. It's like, hey, what do you want? Burgers. We got them. Done.
Yep.
Like that's it. Just go back to that. This like vague ambassadorship of partnering with fucking digital technology space where you can buy a number and then prove to everyone that you're the only one that has that number. Like who gives a shit? Shut up about it.
So just to be sure, you are not a member of the Bored Ape clan.
No, for me, the culture is still gone. It hasn't come back yet.
Okay, all right. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez is brought to you by Kornblau Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. We've gotten a lot of emails lately about Kornblau, him helping people out. One of the things that I'm most proud of with a lot of our partners, a lot of our sponsors, is that they are small but able, right? Like, so instead of seeing a commercial or hearing a commercial seeing a billboard for a personal injury law firm who may not have time for you, most likely they're just referring you to somebody else. Kornblau is big enough to have a few offices, to be able to do home visits, to have been there for 40 years, but nimble and small enough to really work with you and care about you. So when you call Kornblau Kornblau, you're actually getting Adam. If you email, if you call, you ask for Adam, you get Adam. This, as I said, this law firm's been there for over 40 years, started by his parents. He runs it now with his mom. All personal injury. So injured at work, car accident, slip and fall, medical malpractice is what they've specialized in, but also is so caring to our listeners that other legal questions that they call with, Kornblau is always there to help. I want you to know that if you've been injured in any way, or you need legal help for anything, he is your guy. It doesn't cost you anything until they get results for you. 215-576-7200, ask for Adam, or email Kornblau at kornblau.com, Kornblau. That's right, I spelled it for you. Only on this one, the official law firm of the process. So it is time for our hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week. This comes from Alter Ego 877. That Seth Matisse question may be the stupidest thing ever uttered on this pod. You know, you remember they were trading good offensive skills and defensive skills. The original emailer clarified, I meant it as one hypothetical player takes each of Seth and Matisse's best attributes and one other takes the worst. Player A, best of both. Matisse's athleticism, defense, and frame with Seth's offensive skills. How good is that player? Is he a top 30 player in the NBA? Player B, worst of both. Seth's athleticism, defense, and frame with Matisse's offensive skill. How good is that player? Is that player even good enough for low level of college basketball? I still think it's a stupid question.
It's pretty dumb.
Of course, that's a top 30 player with Seth's offense and Matisse's defense. Are you fucking crazy? Yes.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. It might be a top 12 or top 10 player. Right?
Yeah.
And
that would be that's basically Paul George. Like you're kind of describing Paul George.
And then if a player couldn't guard or couldn't shoot, no, they couldn't play in low-level college basketball. That would be horrible.
There's plenty of 6'1", slow, and also poor dribbling. Like, what are we doing? Like, no, he wouldn't play. He wouldn't play. He'd be listening to this podcast.
Might even be dumber than the first question that at least was confusing. This one is just stupid. I'm sorry. I've given it so much time. The mailbag, Rights To Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Send us one basketball, one non-basketball. This comes from PJ. As always, loving the pod in this weirdly fun season. I don't even mind Spike's microphone, which is now fixed, by the way. Thank you to everyone at StreamYard. Thank you to B&H for sending me shit I didn't buy, letting me buy shit I didn't need. Thank you to CJ, our producer. It no longer makes a bad noise. Sixers question. Let's pretend the Sixers win the championship in the next few years, and Daryl invites you to be part of the championship celebration. There is a Ricky float in the parade. You are given rings. You get to introduce Embiid for his finals MVP speech. The only catch, this entire event takes place in the metaverse. The rings you receive are not physically real. They are NFTs. The entire event is sponsored by Crypto.com, and the Sixers ask you not to joke about the nature of the festivities. How do you respond to this invitation? Come on, Mike. What would you do? We have a float. We have NFT rings. We're introducing Embiid, but we cannot
we have a
joke
float
about
it's a shopping cart. Politely decline.
Really? Just so
what am I doing?
mean, think of the jokes we can get off.
But we can't. We're not even allowed to.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
If
we don't take it, we get to say we turned it down, and we get to make jokes about it, which might be better. But introducing Embiid in finals for his finals MVP for his speech in the metaverse.
But what does that even mean? My avatar is doing it.
You're doing
like,
it.
Welcome to Joel Embiid. It's just he's weirdly wiggly. Like, who knows? Who knows what that would be like? I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to learn. Politely decline. Let us ride an actual float with our human body.
But you won't be able to. We won't get it in the real world.
Well, I'm saying that my counter would be don't do a fucking metaverse float. Losers.
Non-basketball, how much sports radio do you consume each week? This question is more for Spike. I really want to know if it's just always on in some capacity. A frightening amount for me. Just a from 5 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day. If I'm not on the phone or running, I am consuming it. Mike, I would imagine is zero, right? Zero sports radio. I consume not just New York and not just national, all of our other markets. So a shit ton, a real lot. It's actually at this point, my podcast listening is down to like 2 or 3 different pods because I only listen to the pod when I'm running or walking my dog. From Anthony, Ben Simmons and Seth Curry are the exact opposite player in every single capacity. Thoughts? I actually think they're quite complementary together. They are. It is pretty amazing. They are completely opposite. They both like gaming, so I would imagine they're the same in that respect. I don't know what their thoughts are on Bored Ape, but
the overlap is dribbling some.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's about it.
Obviously the size and athleticism, the shooting, the defense, very, 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 very different. Non-basketball, there's something each of you have been wondering about the other for as long as you've known each other, but just haven't gotten up the will to ask. I don't know what that is for either of you, but it's time for you to ask it right now on the pod. Do it.
I have nothing to ask. I don't think you have anything to ask either.
I really don't. I really don't. Really, if there was something in my head, I would certainly do it. But there's nothing
I like
in
someone
my head.
instructing us. If you don't ask
Do
this
it.
question that you've been dying to ask, a bomb will go off in 5 minutes. What? I don't know.
I would like to know what that John, was it John? Who was it? Anthony. I would like to know what you think that is, because you clearly think it's something, but I don't have anything. This comes from John. This is a Jigsaw. Would you rather spill something on your shirt every time you ate, happens at every meal, and you don't know what or when it will happen? You have to wear that shirt the rest of the day no matter what. It is in an obvious spot, so the rest of the day everyone will see it and you can't hide it. Or you will start crying emotionally all the time. Anytime you have a slight change in emotion, good or bad, you will start to tear up.
Neither of these options are different from reality.
Oh.
I do spill a lot, and I get emotional, and I guess I don't cry that much, but I would. If you tell me that I would stop spilling on myself, then I would take the second one, because that would improve my life, I think.
Oh. So you would keep the crying if you would take your normal stop, your normal incidence of getting
Spilling
stuff
on
on your
myself.
shirt, if that would go away.
That'd be great.
I don't cry a lot. I am an emotional person. I do get stuff on my shirt all the time in a way that it makes it seem senseless to even buy nice shirts. Like, that's how many spots I have on them. And I don't always get it on the front, the collar. It's always here around the wrists. I end up getting like food. I don't think I could cry all the time. I would take the spots. And finally, from Mark, recently I've been thinking about how incredibly bad every single move the Sixers made during the 2019 offseason was. So many of the team's present problems stem from the terrible decisions made at that time. So I'd like you guys to play a game I call relitigating the disastrous offseason of 2019. I'd like for you to list the following moves in order of how devastating they have been to the Sixers 21-22 season. All of these were terrible decisions, but I'm hoping we can hone in on the ones that bear the most responsibility for the current present state of the team. 1, signing Ben Simmons to a max extension instead of trading him. 2, letting J.J. Redick walk in free agency. 3, signing Tobias Harris to a near max extension. Signing Al Horford in free agency. Trading Jimmy Butler. And trading for Josh Richardson for somebody who's not a better fit.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these, pair together, like trading Jimmy
and
sort of
trading
forced
Ben.
their hand to sign Tobias.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously, had they traded Jimmy, they could have had something. I would say probably trading Jimmy is 1. I'd probably say signing Tobias is 2. I would say signing Ben is 3 because... No, I'd probably say signing Al Horford is 3. And then I would say Ben is 4 because even though it's obviously worked out poorly now, it was still the right thing to do it at the time. And then trading for Josh was basically like, here's the best we could get for Jimmy because he wanted to go to Miami.
You didn't really have a choice there.
Didn't bother me, and letting JJ walk also didn't bother me. He's out of the league. What are we doing?
So the trading Jimmy Butler and signing Ben Simmons to a max extension are almost one and the same.
And Tobias, I think.
Yeah, but you could have let Tobias walk with. They're all definitely intertwined, but I don't think there's a world. I think there is a world in which you let Butler go and you just don't sign Harris to the extension. It makes them look stupid, but I think you can certainly operate as a basketball team. I don't think
to think that they would make both of those trades
and come with nothing. Well, they keep Butler though.
I thought you said trading Butler. Sorry.
Right. I guess what I would say is signing Ben Simmons to a max extension forced them to trade Jimmy, which then forced them to sign Tobias. So I think signing Simmons to the max extension instead of trading, in retrospect, I did agree with that move at the time. I was wrong. I think we were all wrong, even though it seemed like the right thing. In retrospect, if you had just kept Butler and traded Simmons, your team would be in a way better position now.
Yeah, for sure.
Than that. So,
For sure.
so I go Simmons and Butler are tied for 1. 2 is Tobias Harris. 3 is Horford. And then Redick and Richardson are at the end. I don't think
I would. It's slightly different because obviously you're looking at it through the realm of like how it ended up. But I think at the time, like signing Tobias to a near max extension had such a limited upside.
Yes.
Signing Horford to play power forward next to Embiid and him not be ideal for that, and requiring, you're paying $30 million to your backup center, had such a limited upside.
Yeah.
The Simmons versus Jimmy decision, there's a world where you keep Jimmy and things blow up anyway, and there's obviously a world where the Simmons thing worked out a lot better than it has. So I can understand Jimmy doesn't want to be here. Simmons is younger, more, committed to the organization. Obviously, it's not the case, but I can justify that logically. The Tobias near max extension and Horford to play backup center for $30 million, that was never smart. I agree that they're all intertwined, and I agree that it was a bad offseason, but I think those two are the most egregious decisions that you make. Deciding a 23-year-old Ben or 24-year-old Ben, whatever it was, over Jimmy, who's blown up a couple places.
Yeah.
Deciding to go with Simmons there, I think, is defensible, even though it hasn't worked out.
1,000,000 times defensible. Yes, I agree. And there was more happening behind the scenes with Butler than has been reported, at least in terms of his disruption. It would have been a real ballsy thing for them to hold on to Butler and not Simmons at that point. It would have been the right thing. Well, also, we don't know how that plays out either. We don't know if he blows up here, if the team doesn't perform the next year anyway. Non-basketball question, what is the most embarrassing fashion trend you're willing to admit you participated in? I.e., I want to know if either of you own those pants that zip off at the bottom and turn into shorts, or had a Nike swoosh shaved into your head. I've participated in a lot of them. I don't know about you, but I had a...
My fashion has always been pretty staid.
Pretty neutral.
Not taking a ton of risks over here. Although I guess compared to what I was doing growing up, like just wearing like big baggy sweatpants and a sweatshirt to school every day, as I've certainly developed. But I don't think there's ever been a time where I'm like, I'm gonna be, Von Dutch hat guy or like mesh guy or like anything like beret guy. That was never me. I've never, those kinds of things I generally turn up my nose at like weird fads and like things that people say are fashion when I'm like, that's stupid. Alyssa says all the time, this is fashion, this is like fashionable, and I'm like, it's stupid though. Things can be stupid and also like publicly like seeming like they're like popular.
Almost anything that's fashionable is stupid. Almost anything. So I did, when I was like 14, have the shaved really tight on the sides and long in the back mullet because I loved Brian Bosworth. Yeah, I was a big Brian Bosworth guy. And then in college and then post-college, I definitely did the giant Jinko jeans thing and got all my clothes at Pacific Sunwear. Pacific Sunwear is a different store at that point than it is now. Now it just seems like flannels and T-shirts. It was not that at that time. So I wore those. I
never frosted my tips, although I had friends who did.
I didn't do that. I bleached like white hair for a while.
I never did that.
I did that.
I don't
like think
fourth
that looks
grade,
that bad, though.
In fourth grade, I had the Pat Riley slicked back hair.
Oh, really?
When I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. Just like ready to, just like patrolling the sidelines, arms folded, ready to force players to run. So people, I think kids at school were like, why are you doing this? I don't think I had a good answer. But yeah, not a ton.
I have a picture from when I was like 8 or 9 wearing a half shirt that my mom got for me, like a shirt.
Like a crop top?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was a thing for a while, like mid to late 80s. There were a lot of half shirts. That's what they were called at the time, half shirts. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, that's about it, I think. So, all right. Well, we have like 10 days till the what's it called? Till the trade deadline. We also have 2 new sponsors to announce in February as well. 2 new trusted partners of the Ricky. So excited to
ambassadors of the Ricky, and
Yep.
they'll have to change their profile picture to me with Pat Riley hair. And
Yeah.
they will get $250,000 if someone buys it, and that's cool, and we like it, and it all makes sense.
We love it. We'll talk to you later in the week. Are you down with TTP?